Welcome to the May edition of Texarkana Magazine. I'm Libby White, and I have the privilege of talking with Judge Tidwell. He is the 202nd District Court Judge, and we are here in Bowie County, New Boston, Texas, at the courthouse in his office. So let me begin first, Judge. Thank you, first of all, for being with us today. Congratulations on your re-election.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you for your service to our community.
Well,
Truly.
I appreciate that.
Truly. But tell me, did you always dream of being a judge, or how did you get to where you are today?
No, I originally planned on being an ag teacher.
Okay.
And I have a degree from Texas A&M College Station.
Yeah, you do. I saw your ring.
We got the rings.
That's right.
Gig 'em. And so my degree is agricultural education, and I had an opportunity to come up here. I went to work at Texas High in Texarkana in the spring of '82 after I graduated. And everything was rocking along great. And then 1984, Ross Perot helped Governor White come through with some new changes in the legislature, and they wanted to change vocational education, and they started cutting all of the programs that they had. There were things called like ICT and DECA in high
I remember
schools.
that in high school, yeah.
And one of the complaints was Ross Perot loved to say, you spend 11 years of educating somebody in the 12th grade year, you let them work half a day to buy a car. And he said, if you work in a grocery store, how hard is it to learn potatoes go on bottom, bread goes on top? And so they slashed our budgets. And so then I had to make a decision. What did I want to do? Move to a smaller school where there were still ag programs in some sort, or did I want to do something else? And that's when I got the idea I'd go to law school.
Well, there you go.
And so almost 30 years of practicing law, then I became a judge, and that's where I am here today.
But you always wanted to become a judge once you were in law school.
Well, once I got to law school, this courthouse was built in '85.
Okay.
I was in law school from '85 to '88, and being from DeKalb, I would drive on I-30 past here, going to Texarkana, and I had my wife with me, and so I'd always kind of tap her and say, one of these days, I'm going to be a judge here, every time we drove by here. And it was kind of a goal to practice about 25 years, and then see if doors opened and go for a judgeship.
Well, so describe to me your ideal judge, because you always wanted to be one. So what in your mind was an ideal judge?
Well, the biggest thing or most important thing to be an ideal judge is temperament. When I campaigned, I made one promise and one promise only. I would treat anybody that came from me with dignity and respect, no matter their stature in life or no matter what attorney they had with them. And, I hear litigation is volatile within itself. There's always opposing parties, or there's prosecutors and defendants. And so when you live in a world of chaos, you've got to be neutral, and you've got to be comforting. You may have a wife or a husband fighting for custody of a child, and there's this raw emotion. And so what's important is be a calming influence. I may rule against you, but I'm not going to take it out on you. And that's kind of the way I look at it.
Temperament. I like that. Well, what are your typical cases that you see here in the court?
The way we're set up here in Bowie County for the district level, Judge Jeff Addison is the 102nd District Court. He spends 2 weeks here and 2 weeks in Red River County. Judge Bill Miller is the judge of the 5th District Court. He spends 2 weeks here and then 2 weeks in Cass County. I spend my entire time here in Bowie County. So because of that, I have half of everything. I have all the criminal cases, half of all the civil cases, and the family law cases. And so predominantly I'm criminal law heavy. And so that's why you'll read a lot about me in the paper, or my prosecutors, Kelly Crisp and Lauren Richards, they're assigned to my courtroom. And so we are constantly dealing with cases.
Hard cases, it sounds like.
Very difficult. Majority of my cases are sexual assault of children, murder cases, aggravated assault. They are the ugliest of the ugly.
And how do you turn that to the good? What is it that gets you through the day, or your goal at the end of some of those hard cases?
Well, the thing is my job is to be a neutral person and do my job. And then you watch at the end at what happens. For example, I had an individual, young man that caused the death of a mother because he took Xanax and got behind the wheel. And so there's a thing called victim impact statements in criminal cases. At the end of the case, when everything's done, the victims can speak to the defendant, and they can basically explain the impact they had. In this particular case, the defendant was in his 20s. And so first, the daughter of the deceased got up, and she said to him, "You took away my best friend. Because of you, my children will never get to meet their grandmother." And then the husband of the deceased got up, and he said, "Because of you, I sleep alone at night and will forever." And so you see the impact that the people have. In my cases, I've had sexual assault cases where when I sentence somebody to 50 years or 60 years and it's over, I've had women who at that time were children when they were sexually assaulted. They will run to each other and hug each other. And so while you can't call it joy, you can call it closure. And that's something that so many people need.
Absolutely. When you're getting to see, you're helping them get to a place of closure
We're
in their
getting
life,
to a closure place.
and to be able to move on.
So,
well, what has been one of the most memorable cases that you've seen come through your court?
I had a case, a sexual assault case that was tied to, it was a very, very old case. And it was actually, they discovered it in searching a house for something else. They saw a VHS tape. They watched the VHS tape and found out that an aunt had actually recorded her niece having sex with people that the aunt benefited from. And it was the kind of case where you had jurors had to watch basically a child being assaulted. And in the background, you could hear the news broadcast in the hotel room that said today, Michael Jackson and Maria Presley got divorced. And so they knew what year this occurred. And so from an evidentiary interest point, that was important. But when I turned the lights back on in the courtroom, after the ladies and gentlemen of the jury had to see that video, tears were just streaming down their faces, and they just, they had to just get a grip, and we had to take a break. And those are kind of things that are memorable. I've had cases where 5-year-olds were beaten, and they died at the hands of somebody who was supposed to be watching them, and I had to watch autopsy photographs, and you see those kind of bruises. If you go over to Summerhill Road with Texas High, my very first case was a murder case, and it was a drug deal gone bad. And a young man shot a guy 3 times in the back, and the jury sentenced this guy to 60 years in prison. I had to watch the grandparents watch the autopsy pictures, shown up on the screen. The next week, they decided, we'll let the young judge try the guy that gave him the gun. And so I listened to the evidence. A lot of it was the same. But then it comes down to, what am I going to give a guy that gave him the gun? And I came back into this room, and I literally got on my knees right over there and prayed, because when you make that decision, it's all me. It's not 12 people. I decide what somebody's going to happen to them, why. And I gave him 55 years, because I realized if he wouldn't have given him the gun, the guy might have gotten beat up, bruised and everything, but he was woken up the next morning. And so I decided 55 years was what it was going to be. And when I pronounced that sentence, the defendant, the mother of his child and his mother in the courtroom, and there was biblical wailing. And so you just remember those kind of things, but because of just significance of it and the impact of it.
Absolutely. When you mentioned a jury and the importance of the jury, and I know we're coming out of COVID, and probably juries were different, but so tell me first off the importance of the jury, and then what it's like this year compared to during COVID.
I believe absolutely in the jury system. I want 12 people, and I tell them every time we qualify, I said, I need 12 fact finders, because there used to be a political thing in Make America Great Again. I'm going to tell you, the greatest thing about America is the jury system, because this is where your peers determine what happens to you. whether you're awarded money in a civil case, whether you do time or probation in a criminal case. We got people from all over this county, all age groups, economic, ethnic, it doesn't matter. They get to decide, and I love the jury system. Now, COVID has shut us down, and the thing is at one time last fall, we were trying to have cases in trials. I tried a sexual assault case in the new Boston High School auditorium. I was up on the stage. I had one of my friends send me a text after he saw a picture of it. He said it looked like a high school production of To Kill a Mockingbird, and it really was. I mean, we were up there. I had the jury sitting down in front of me, but we tried more cases between March of 2020 and November of 2020 than any county in the entire state of Texas. I mean, Houston, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, no one tried more cases than we did in Bowie County because we just kept finding ways to do it. And so we worked through it, and hopefully we're going to get to where we can be back in a jury box. That's kind of our goal.
That's what I was going to ask you next. It's for 2021. What are some of your goals moving forward?
To get away from Zoom, and to try to go more back into the courtroom. Now, I have to make sure people feel safe because, everybody will say, personal responsibility, you can do it if you want to. Well, that's true, but the problem is people don't come to jury duty because they want to. They come to jury duty because they were ordered to do so, and I'm the one doing the ordering. And so if I'm going to make somebody do something, I got to make sure that they are safe and they're comfortable. And so we try to get there. We do Zooms, and Zoom is fine, but Zoom is not, Zoom is not as respectful sometimes,
Right.
I mean, I don't have funny events in most of my courts, but for example, I had a lady smoking a cigarette in court because she was in Zoom. She was sitting in her car talking. And I said, for the first time ever in my history of being a judge, I said, please no smoking in court. And all of a sudden she looks at me and she puts her cigarette down here out of her view. But smoke keeps coming up around her face. And so you're just like, she doesn't get it. And then I've had people drive. They're still driving their cars while they're Zooming with me. And I ask them, please pull over, please pull over. And so one, she was asking for a child support issue. And I ruled against her as she was driving. And all of a sudden she just kind of caught it and went off the road and was like, wait, what did you say? And I said, thank you, click. And she was gone.
Zoom. Did you think 20 years ago you would ever be doing court rulings by Zoom?
No, I mean the entire every district judge in the state of Texas in March of last year had a Zoom license purchased for them. I didn't know what Zoom was, and all of a sudden they gave us a week to learn, and then we started trying to do these things.
But you pushed through, and you were the county that had the most cases.
We were,
and that's very commendable.
Yeah.
Good job.
Well, I'm elected to work, so that's what I do.
That's right. So your wife Kathy. Tell me about how y'all met.
Kathy and I both went to A&M. We never dated then, and but we came back here, and as an ag teacher, my contract's 12 months a year, and so I was already working. And Miss Winnie Courtney was the school secretary at that time, and she knew Kathy and I both, and she knew when Kathy was going to be having her contract signed at the superintendent's office. So she arranged for me to go to the superintendent's office to bump into Kathy to ask her out, and which I did. And this June we will have 38 years of marriage.
She was a little matchmaker.
So she was the matchmaker.
And how does Kathy feel about this role as being a judge?
Kathy has always been supportive of whatever I did, and she likes it. She didn't like the idea when detectives would come knock on the door at 2 or 3 in the morning.
Sure.
But she's just been supportive of it, and as long as I stay busy and she can have the kids, she's great.
Now tell me about your kids.
Okay. 2 of them, Jackson and Jordan. Jackson is presently the assistant director of student engagement leadership at the University of Louisiana Lafayette, Raging Cajun.
Okay.
He got married last year to Amelie Karam. And they're expecting our first grandchild in September.
Congratulations.
And so thank you very much. And my daughter, she has a degree in multimedia journalism. They both went to Oklahoma State, by the way. And she was working She started at the CBS affiliate in Fayetteville, and she now works for the CBS affiliate in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
So, as a reporter.
Well, as a father, what was something that you constantly were telling your kids? They probably could recite it now and say, Dad always said this or that. But what were some of the main things that you tried to instill in them or said over and over?
The main thing that I wanted my children to learn, and I kind of got reinforcement of it this week, was to be kind and respectful to people and always be an encouragement to people. Jackson, after he announced he was going to have the child, he had a group of the Panhellenic Council there at the university come to his house and surprise him on Sunday and a little baby shower. And that doesn't seem like a big deal, but he told me those kids in this group, they all have to work to go through college. And so they're spending their personal money and they're coming by and giving little gifts to somebody. And they show how much they appreciate him, and that's because he first appreciated them.
Oh, and you're a living example of it, and you have to do that every day in the courtroom as well.
That's what I try to do.
Outside of work, as a husband and father, what is your goal for your family, and how would you work to achieve it?
Our goal is to have fun. Okay.
Yeah.
We're a Disney family.
Okay.
And so, both my kids worked at Disney at one time, and so we keep going out there, and we're working on another trip right now.
Okay.
And it's just the main thing that we do. We're not hikers, We're not. We just like to hang out, and we find things to enjoy together. But it's really anything that laughter's involved. Whether I'm growing up maroon and white, it's one thing, but I put on that bright orange shirt, Oklahoma State, to go, and we bought season football tickets so we could go spend time with them up there.
Right.
As long as it's bright orange, not burnt orange, I'm good. But then, then if you come and do other things, I find something that they like, and we try to achieve it. Right now, I'm about to head down to Louisiana and build a raised bed garden because he wants to have a garden. And so, hey, if that's what they want, let's do it.
Do you still garden? I know you with your ag background.
I do. I really got into it when COVID came in because once they shut me down, I had this free time. I started planting more and more things, and I just got the garden in 2 weeks ago. And so I've got it all. I try to do something new every year. I have a raised bed, but I try to raise cantaloupes up in the air. And so this year I'm raising watermelons up in the air. And so we'll see how that plays out.
Well, so Disney trips, gardening, is there anything else you do in your free time, which I'm sure you don't have much of, but anything else?
I love motorcycles. It's strange. I don't look like a motorcyclist at all. I'm not a biker,
Yeah.
But when I won my first election back in 2016, it was a primary in March. And so from March until January 1, I technically had free time as I shut my practice down. And so I rode, I got Craig Henry and Joe Thomas, and we went to the Sturgis motorcycle rally in South Dakota, rode 3,000 miles round trip. And I mean, it's a beautiful part of the country, and I just really enjoy getting out, it's great. They call it wind therapy, and it's great. I don't hunt, I don't fish.
Yeah.
And so something to distract my mind is I will get out and go.
Now, will Kathy go with you?
Kathy likes motorcycles, but she likes, I actually bought several motorcycles to fit her, to see which one she liked.
Right.
And the one she likes is the biggest and heaviest one, and I can't deal with it. And so she'll take a short trip with me.
Yeah,
but that's
not the
about
long
it.
trip.
No, not the long
You don't have a little sidecar for her?
No, I thought about a sidecar. I had a big one in the back, but I couldn't do it.
You just couldn't do it.
No.
What motivates you each day to come to work, to do your job, to do your best? What's your motivation?
It sounds almost cliche, but that's what I'm elected to do. I always tell people, I'm put in this position to decide things. In all our lives we're taught, don't be judgmental. Don't look down on people. Well, the problem is my job is to be judgmental, and I take it very, very seriously. I know we walked in and looked at my courtroom a few minutes ago. The bench is up high. The people are down low. And, it's like I told a pastor one time, you read biblically about white throne judgments. And I never appreciate the judgment aspect until you become a judge. and you're sitting up high, and it's meant that way. I'm not, and I look down on people. And a lot of my cases are criminal, and I'll have people brought in front of me in shackles, and then they're looking up at me, and whatever I say goes. And it's a, it's a big responsibility, because if I say take them to jail, they go to jail, and if I say release them, they get released. And so, if I'm dealing with a child custody case, I've got to decide who gets the child, those kind of things, or child support, those kind of things. And they weigh heavy, but every day I come to work, I realize the decisions I make affect so many people. It's not like you can go through a nonchalant job or nonchalant day, like Mondays and Tuesdays blend in. Every day I do something that affects somebody and will affect them the rest of their life. And so I take that into consideration, and that's my motivation, is to try to do it right.
Well, because you can't personally have a bad day. Every day that you walk in that court, you have to be clear-headed, just focused, ready to do your job.
You have to be, and that goes about that temperament. I can't get angry, because if you get angry, then my emotion would cloud my judgment, and so I have to stay with it.
Well, Judge Tidwell, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate your service, like I said, and just to be able to get a peek behind the scenes of what it's really like as a judge, and as a member of your county, I appreciate you. I do, and I had no idea what all it took to do the job that you do, and so thank you for that, and thank you guys for being a part of it. We hope you enjoyed this May edition of Texarkana Magazine.